Well, everybody is seated. Can we start? So first of all, good afternoon. Well, I'm happy to see everybody here from the previous sessions. It's a good sign. Okay, we're going to have three lectures now. What do I do? It's recorded me, but we're not in the Zoom now. We shouldn't be in the Zoom now. So which lecture are we going to hear? I'm confused now. Nama. I'm מצלמים אותי? Okay. Sorry. Quite embarrassing. So, אפשר להתפטר מזה? טכנולוגיה, מה זה? Yeah. Okay, now, seems better? It's not recorded anymore. Okay, our first lecture now is by Professor Nama Yalomek and her student, MA student Alex King, who will actually speak to you. Professor Nama Yalomek of the Hebrew University is one of the organizers of this research workshop and the research group Phoenician Identity in the Making, alone, durée, perspective, both made by the Israel Foundation. Israel Foundation. This joint lecture will be read by Alex King of the Hebrew University, who is actually a master student. She's writing her master's thesis under the supervision of Nama, and will focus on the intriguing combination, indeed intriguing from my point of view, of identity and technologies, metal working and Phoenician identity. Okay. זה בזום עכשיו? Oh no. Yes, I am. Yeah, I can talk without my notes. It should be fine. So, yeah, I'm Alex King. Thank you. I'm a beginner. So my name is Alex. I am a student of Nama, and I just wrote my thesis on this subject, Phoenician metallurgy and identity. So I want to start with introducing the perception and reputation of the Phoenicians as craftspeople and metallurgists in the literary sources. So ancient sources position Phoenician city-states as production centers that supply the Near East and Mediterranean worlds with commodities and luxury objects, and their citizens as technological experts whose cultural identities are fundamentally connected to their crafts. And we see this characterization in the Homeric epics and the biblical sources. In this excerpt from the Iliad, there is a dress that was richly broidered and the handiwork of a Sidonian woman, and it was offered to Athena, one of the fairest in its broiderings. In this excerpt, the value of the product is inherently connected to the identity of the Phoenician woman as a Sidonian woman. And the value isn't just in the product itself, but in the image that it creates of this woman masterfully weaving the robes. And we see the same characterization with metallurgy. So in the Bible, in 1 Kings, we've talked about Hiram already today. He is characterized as being filled with knowledge and understanding, and with the knowledge to do all kinds of bronze work. So in this case, he's not just manpower, but he's a named artisan who is contributing to the symbolic power of Solomon's temple. And we see another type of characterization the same way in the Iliad when we're talking about the silver bowl that was the prize at the race at Patroclus's funeral. It's described as being richly wrought and also goodliest in all the earth, seeing that Sidonians, well skilled in deft handiwork, had wrought it cunningly. So this characterization is present in throughout many literary sources, and it seems like a very positive characterization, but it's actually imbued with prejudice. The Greeks are characterizing the Phoenicians with their techne, with their craft, which differentiates them from themselves, who are characterized by their logos, their reason, which is a reflection of the soul, while techne is a reflection of material goods. Based on this characterization in myths, every new technology seems to be attributed to the expertise of the Phoenicians, even when there's not necessarily archaeological evidence for this. But what we know about history, especially the history of metallurgy during the 9th century BC, during the Phoenician expansion, plays into this characterization very well. Metallurgy accelerated in the region of the Iberian Peninsula after the arrival of Phoenicians as an industry and as a technology. And we see that from Tilzila Eschel and her co-author's article about Phoenician silvers in the homeland. The Phoenicians were looking for silver and looking for metals from the beginning of their culture. The 10th century and the 10th century metals are from Sardinia and from Anatolia, and the 9th centuries are from Iberia. And when we see the material culture in Iberia at the time in 9th century, there is Levantine architecture and artifacts all throughout the southwestern regions, and even further inland. It's been connected to their search for copper ore and also jarosite, which are present in the Huelva mines. Jarosite is a mineral that the Phoenicians did not have access to in the homeland. It's a silver-bearing iron mineral, and its exploitation and the metallurgy associated with it accelerated after the Phoenician presence in the colonies. So into the 8th and 7th centuries BC, the Phoenician colonies were established all along the southern peninsula, and the mines from all regions of the peninsula were exploited. Jarosite was exploited in the southeast as well, along with lead ore. In the northeast, we also have lead ore, and then in the northwest, we have tin ore. So they were collecting ore for silver, iron, and bronze production. So I'm not that talented. So the aim of our research that's okay. Yeah, so the aim of our research is we wanted to look into the technologies that we see accelerate in the Iberian Peninsula and try to see if we can track any Southern Levantine traditions with these new technologies. We didn't want to take the characterization of the Phoenicians as metallurgists, as expert metallurgists for granted, and actually look into the archaeology. So the way we're doing this at first is comparing and contrasting metal technologies from the homeland of the Phoenicians, the southern Levant, with those from the colonized areas of Iberia. First, we want to look into what technologies are being used at the metal workshops in Iberia. And then we also want to see if these also exist in the southern Levant. And then we're looking further into this question by looking at paraphernalia and seeing if paraphernalia can shed light on the technologies that existed in both regions, as they are reflections of technological transfer. So these are the metalworking technologies that are in use on the Iberian Peninsula during the Phoenician expansion. So we have copper smelting in a crucible, which is a method of copper production, 3 methods of bronze production, 3 methods of silver production, and then iron bloomery. These are the 2 methods that were employed by the local Iberians before the Phoenicians arrived. So we have copper smelting in a crucible and then co-smelting copper ore and cassiterite. These are the only methods that we see before the Phoenicians came. Back home in the southern Levant, the Phoenicians or the Levantine metalworkers were trained in either copper smelting in a furnace. And we also have mixing metallic copper and metallic tin, which is alloying. And then we also have iron bloomery. And this leaves 4 technologies that are unaccounted for. They aren't native to the local Iberians or to the southern Levant. There is some debate about cementation, but we'll get into that later. And then the smelting of jarosite and lead to extract silver, that was not known by anyone, it seems like, before the Phoenicians came to Iberia. And then there's also the extraction of silver from cupra argentiferous ores, which is not recorded again until the 15th century CE. And then there is silver cupellation, which is known in the ancient Near East, but it's not in the repertoire of the late Bronze Iron Age metallurgists in the southern Levant. So to gain more insight about these traditions, we wanted to look into the typology of paraphernalia in Iberia. We wanted to ask, can we gain insight about the transfer/invention of metallurgical technology through an investigation of this paraphernalia? This is because metal production is a traditional conservative practice. Thus, if metallurgical processes are fully transferred, then it will be transferred together with all the elements of the chaîne opératoire, including paraphernalia. In other words, following the paraphernalia is a way to track the transfer of a technology. In other words, if technologies are transferred from the southern Levant to Iberia, then we expect to find the same paraphernalia in both regions. And this is following the theory of communities of practice, according to which craftspeople who produce the same way belong to the same social group. So in this way, crucibles and tuyères, these metal-making technologies or metal-making tools, they are reflection of tradition and identity. So I'll quickly look at the paraphernalia in the southern Levant. So what objects were a part of the Phoenician toolkit prior to their voyages to the peninsula? So we have 3 main types of crucibles, bowl-shaped, lamp-shaped, and flower pot. Take note of the flower pot crucible, and specifically its thick base and tapering shape. These were all used mainly for bronze melting and bronze alloying. Then we have round cross-section tuyères. These were also mainly found in context of bronze production, but they are also used for other methods of metallurgy as well. We mostly have downturned bent types in the southern Levant. There is some examples of straight types like this, but this is mainly a Cypriot tool, the 4th one, the straight one. And then we have square tuyères, which show up in the southern Levant at the same time as iron working. So they are mainly associated with iron working, and they are found in iron working contexts, along with metallurgical remains from iron smithing. So now we'll look at the novel paraphernalia in the Iberian Peninsula. What objects were part of the toolkit of the Iberian Phoenician Community Network? So these are all the types in a table that I found, and the ones highlighted are ones that we can find parallels for in the southern Levant. So there's the flower pot crucible, which was never seen in the Iberian Peninsula before the Phoenicians arrived. Like I said before, it's characterized by its thick base and tapering walls. And in the peninsula, it's associated with co-smelting, which is an Iberian practice. It was not practiced in the southern Levant, as they did not have access to tin ore, cassiterite, in the southern Levant. And then they also did the southern Levantine practice alloying. And alloying, as a reminder, was not practiced at all in the Iberian Peninsula before the Phoenicians came. And then also cementation, which we don't know yet where it comes from. So you can see on this side, these are the Iberian artifacts, then these are the southern Levantine ones. So for round section tiers, we find again straight and bent types. The bent types are a lot less common in the Iberian Peninsula, which shows that the craftsmen there had different preferences. They preferred the straight type. And they are associated with copper and bronze production, but notably they are also associated with lead smelting, jarosite extraction, and silver cupellation, which shows that the Southern Levantine repertoire is evolving and integrating into a new technical system. We're finding new types of technology associated with it that we wouldn't expect. Here's a straight round section tier. There are straight tiers found in the Iberian Peninsula before the Phoenicians came, but they're a lot smaller, and the ones after, the size-wise, are more comparable to the Cypriot type. Then this is the bent tier. So this brings up the question of jarosite extraction, because these tiers were found alongside jarosite fragments. And this is one of the technologies that's been attributed to the genius of the Phoenicians, but the Phoenicians did not have the familiarity of the land and its resources to understand that jarosite could be used to extract silver. And also, the Phoenician smiths were likely not smelters. They weren't trained in smelting. So how could this have come to the Iberian Peninsula? I looked in other places and I couldn't find comparable paraphernalia, and I couldn't find jarosite extraction anywhere else before the Phoenicians come to Iberia. Therefore, I suggest that it was a development of the community network, that the Phoenicians and the Iberians worked together to create this process. And Iberians, I think, were very much a part of this process, because we see these types of technology and these paraphernalia in their indigenous sites and near mines that with indigenous artifacts. Going into prismatic section tiers. So like on the Levant, they are associated with iron working in the Iberian Peninsula, also other types of metalworking as well, but they are specifically found a lot in ironworking contexts. What's very interesting, though, is that on the Iberian Peninsula, they developed a new variation, the double perforated variation, which never shows up in the southern Levant, but does persist and is the preferred type in the Iberian Peninsula, which shows that the craftsmen there were developing their own metallurgical culture separate from the homeland in this way, even though they were using kind of similar technologies. And these tiers again show up in other Phoenician colonies in Carthage, Morocco, and they also show up in Italy. So it shows that the whoever is bringing them there to these other colonies is bringing, it's cemented in their culture. And then they also developed the Y-shaped tier from this double tier type, which shows up in the 7th to 6th centuries BC. Then there's paraphernalia that's completely new, or at least for the Iberian and Levantine populations. There's the socketed handle crucible, and we actually see a similar type show up in the Aegean as early as the early bronze. So it was likely transferred from the Aegean or Greece. And what's interesting about this type is that it is associated with cementation in the Iberian Peninsula, and there is a proof of cementation in the Aegean as well. So it was probably transferred from the Aegean. And then there's also the other type of handled crucible, the ear-handled crucible, which is also associated with cementation. And this is comparing it to the Greek type. So, in conclusion, there is similarities in paraphernalia that indicate the transfer of certain bronze working and iron working technologies, specifically alloying and iron bloomery. But there's also interaction between two groups that resulted in distancing from the Levantine tradition. So we have evolutions of Levantine paraphernalia and technologies, like the double holed tuyere. And we also have the development of completely new paraphernalia and technologies like jarosite extraction. Thus, not all the novel technologies in the Iberia could have been brought from the Levant. And so while Levantine identity is adopted in some way on the Iberian Peninsula, it is dynamic and changing. And this is a reflection, I believe, of the community network, the beginnings of a community network between Phoenician and Iberians. Phoenician metalworking tradition identity on the colonies is set apart from the homeland, even though it's influenced by it. And that's it. Thank you. No, there in the Iberian Peninsula, there's no bellows, so they probably were used ones made out of organic materials. We do, yeah, we do in the Southern Levant. Thank you. Thank you. I yeah. Yeah, I did look into other regions a bit. I started my master's wanting to look at all the different places, all of the colonies in the Western Mediterranean. It used to be about the Western Mediterranean, and then it became about the Iberian Peninsula. So I did start there. And yeah, there are local adaptations, especially in Carthage. They took on the double hold tuyere, but it seems like they made it in a more exact way. Even it was they drilled a hole into it, so the two holes are more parallel than we see it in the Iberian Peninsula. And then they also took on like that Y-shaped tuyere as well. But yeah, it's something I would love to look more into because I don't have so much information on it. Cool.
I just wanted to actually
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and that is that another thing that are by the indigenous peoples was they
Mm-hmm. Yes, yeah.
and that's very it was very important for them.
Mm-hmm.
Different
Yeah.
intercultural
Yeah. Yeah.
after how they settle but
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's something Nama and I've talked about as well. Like maybe these craftsmen, they didn't stay. Maybe they just came and they transferred their technology and then they left. And then the Iberians really absorbed it. But it's if that is what the case, then they really absorbed so much of Levantine culture in that way. It seems like, which is really interesting.
yeah, some of it's like so if we buy 5 at the base level, the first level. I'll use the different one.
Mhm.
But then you can use this specifically to demonstrate also there was evolution present.
Mhm.
That's where we said some sites
Mhm.
like like that's you that is,
Mhm.
you know.
Yeah, yeah, it would be very interesting. Yeah, exactly. Exactly, yeah.
But with these, like the help of it,
Mhm.
you know, sort of they take on in a different direction.
Mhm. Yeah, yes. Yeah.
It had a huge.
Mhm. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
That's very interesting. Thank you.
A few years ago, Jim Yuli, founders of archaeological system now part of Levant, they published a nice article, you know, very provocative, prevalent craft and laugh them or leave them. That's something that was the time. We claim that it's the whole idea of prevalent craft and the oriental mission is very problematic because these people were under state control. They moved the speeches and they supposed to be negotiated on the highest level. So the fact that I'm not saying that he is correct. And the same that this is why they circulated this idea as a contra to prevailing ideas about traveling craftsmen moving around Greece and other regions. Maybe the fact that we do have these technological platforms, maybe that can turn into something much bigger. Like we have whole community, entire community that move, including the craftsmen without any permission from the palace or from the court or from the government or whatever. So maybe this would indicate this transfer of a sizable segments of the population, the real movement of them, which would in a way contradict what the end of the mind about DNA. We hear more about DNA. And from DNA perspective, we do not have that much specific DNA, but we do have a ecological transfer. So it is all became a bit complicated in a way, but it's
Thank you for your comment.